we will see another topic for grade 8, that is tame the fire. Okay, now why we have kept this a particular name, tame the fire, we will see this in today's session. So first thing is how fire occurs. Now, you must have seen fire from since your childhood. Okay, you must have seen your mom lighting up a matchstick or even a candle, anything. So you must have seen fire. So today we are going to study the chemical analysis, what exactly happens inside a fire, why does fire occur, and all these questions will be clear to you after this session. So the first point that is that fire is a chemical reaction in which energy in the form of heat is produced. Okay, so basically when you light a matchstick, what happens is matchstick contains phosphorus at its head. So initially, from the history, since history, there were white phosphorus was being used. Okay, it used to light up when it would be rubbed on any surfaces, any rough surface. So, and it was dangerous because in some instance, even if it would rub on itself, it would create a spark. Okay, so what scientists did is that to avoid these instant sparks, what they did is they introduced black phosphorus, which also we also used nowadays, and we also use a red phosphorus. The portion that is at the tip of a matchstick, that is called phosphorus. So there were initially of white, then there was black, and then red. So now in today's generation we mostly use black or red. So what happens exactly is that that uh, when you rub that phosphorus on a match, a chemical reaction occurs. Okay, and that chemical react and because of the result of the chemical reaction, energy in form of heat is produced. So this is the first point. Second is fire is the rapid oxidation of a material in the exothermic chemical process of combustion. So see this now. The fire that everyone is seeing is actually a rapid oxidation of a material. Hmm. It is oxidation of a material. Oxidation does not mean that addition of oxygen. No, I'll tell you that. I'll come to the process just a second. So it is actually oxidation of material in the exothermic chemical process. So what is this exothermic chemical process? Exothermic means that the reaction gives out heat. There are two types of reactions basically. First is endothermic. Endothermic. Okay, I think THERMIC. Okay, this is ENDOTHERMIC. You cannot write here because of this resolution. Endothermic, and second is exothermic. EXOTHER, then MIC. Okay, so there are two types of chemical reaction. First is endothermic and second is exothermic. So so the reaction fire is actually an exothermic reaction, means it gives out heat when it is combusted. Okay, there are some reaction which also absorb heat. Those reactions are called as endothermic reaction, but that is different story. Then whenever the oxygen reacts with any kind of fuel in presence of air, at that time fire occurs. Okay, so this is another important point. When ever the oxygen in the air react with any kind of fuel in presence of air, and at that time fire occurs. Okay, so that we all know about this. Then as I told you earlier, what is oxidation? Oxidation doesn't necessarily involve oxygen. Now, why is it called an oxidation? See this. So originally the term was used when oxygen caused electron loss in a reaction. The modern definition is a more generalized definition. So a modern definition is given over here. I'll tell you that. But before that, there's something I need you all to understand. What is it exactly? So originally the term used when oxygen caused electron loss. Okay, so when an atom is like this, and it has electrons over here, 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 here. Okay, so this is an atom. Initially, what happened was when oxygen was, when there was a combustion reaction, then this oxygen caused electron loss. Okay, that is this electron was actually lost from this atom. That's why it was earlier called oxidation. But today we have a much more advanced definition for this. Oxidation is the loss of electrons during a reaction by a molecule, atom, or ion. Okay? That is, see, whenever there is a loss of electron in a chemical reaction, we call that an oxidation reaction. Okay, it might be of that molecule, it might be of that atom, or it might be of an any ion. It doesn't necessarily, oxidation is actually referred to all the elements that can give out, or that can lose electron. Okay, that is called oxidation. Then oxidation occurs when the oxidation state of a molecule, atom, or ion is increased. Okay, so this is actually a much complex topic, oxidation state, and these we will you will study it in higher classes. I won't be teaching you that because they really are very very advanced. But what I'll be telling you is that the principle of what happens exactly. So oxidation is the loss of electrons. So whenever this whenever this atom, let's say this is atom A and this is atom B. So whenever this atom A loses an electron, that phenomena is called as oxidation. Okay, you just keep that in mind. And whenever any atom gains an electron, that time that reaction is called reduction reaction. Okay, this reaction is called oxidation reaction. This is called a reduction reaction. It is called oxidation reaction because it gives out electrons, and reduction reaction is called because it can accept an electron. Okay, it accepts the electron, that's why it's called reduction. Yes, that's what I told you right now. This is a oxidation. It releases electrons, and this is the reduction. It can accept the electron. So there are two electrons extra over here. So this atom, what this atom did, this atom gave its electrons to some another atom, and the resultant atom is produced like this. This is called oxidation, and the reduction is like it was already like this, and then it gained two electrons. That is reduction. That oxidation is the release of electron, and reduction is the accepting electron. Then we will study exothermic reactions. Like I told you, there are two types of reactions, endothermic and exothermic. And exothermic, what happens is this apparatus, okay, this apparatus over here, this is hotter than the surroundings, and that's why it gives out heat. Okay, so exothermic reactions are reactions that processes that release energy, usually in the form of heat or light. Okay, so most of the things for the exothermic reactions are they give out energy in the form of heat and light, or heat or light. Then in an exothermic reaction, energy is released because the total energy of the products is less than the total energy of reactants. So this is a very important point to understand which reaction is exothermic and which reaction is endothermic. How will you understand it? So understand, see, total energy of the product. Let's say this is the reactants gives product, correct? So this the total energy of the product. Okay, total energy, I'll write it, energy of product is greater than energy of reactant. Okay, so the total energy of the product, see this, I'll write it here. So total energy of the product is greater than total energy of the reactant. Then what you can say is that it is an exothermic reaction. It is an exothermic process. Okay, let's move. So what are fire extinguishers now? So we have seen fire. We also have seen the devastating impacts fire can cause. And we know there are many devastating impacts, like it can ruin everything that comes into its way. So there must be a counterpart, a counteractive to control the fire. So what the artificial means to control that fire is actually nothing but it's called a fire extinguisher, which were made by humans. So a fire extinguisher is an active fire protection device used to extinguish uncontrolled small fires. Okay, you cannot actually use a fire extinguisher for large, huge fires. Then a fire extinguisher is actually an active fire protection device. Okay, it's an active fire protection. Active means it can be used. anytime. It should be active. Then device used to extinguish or control small fires. Then they contain pressurized carbon dioxide, contain CO2. You know CO2. Yes, since oxygen is required for burning, and if we give CO2, the fire cannot sustain. I mean, the process is actually a little bit complex. I'll try to explain you in this lecture. It contains nitrogen and propel it as a stream of fire, squelching agent into the fire. So what happens is, just a second, I'll remove all the ink and tell you what happens. So let's say that you are in camping. Okay, let's say you are camping. Yeah, then these are woods, and you have built a fire system for yourself. Okay, this is a fire system, and sometimes what happens is, because of anyone's negligence, uh, fuel, some fuel was placed in container. What happens is, it splits this, and everything goes haywire. And now the fire is caught everywhere. So what you'll do is, what this fire extinguisher does is that you have a fire extinguisher, you bring it. So what will happen is that extinguisher, when you throw a powerful beam, beam not actually, a powerful stream of this carbon dioxide and nitrogen falls on it. And what happens is, when this carbon dioxide and nitrogen, they forms a shell or coating. Okay, they forms a coating over it, and this does not allow air to pass inside it. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is that nitrogen is, it is very cold. So nitrogen lowers down the temperature, and this carbon dioxide, what they do is, it does not allow oxygen, outside oxygen, to mix inside this fire. And that's why, because of less oxygen and lower temperature, the fire gets, extinguished. And what are the chemical reactions inside it? Let us see. So first is, this is Na2O, gives plus 2HCl, gives 2 NaCl plus H2O. Don't worry about these reactions, but just you need to at least look inside this. And this is cuprous oxide, CuO, and this is H2SO4. This is sulfuric acid, gives cupric sulfate plus water. Then calcium oxide give plus 2HCl, hydrochloric acid, gives calcium chloride and water. And this is a fire extinguisher diagram that you need to remember. This is a safety clip here. Then this is operating lever with Pearson arrangement. This is operating lever. This is actually the lever with which you just, it's like a gun with which you, press it, so that the spray nozzle will become activated. This is a CO2 liquid. Then this is dip tube. Then this is a highly pressurized cylinder. This is very much pressurized. Then this is a discharge hose. Then pressure gauge. This pressure gauge gives you the pressure inside this. And this is a safety clip. Okay. See this diagram carefully. And now let's do an experiment. So what we'll do is, we will try to make our own fire extinguisher. Let's see. So let's do an experiment. First is the material required. What are the materials required? First is baking soda, which you'll find in kitchen. Then vinegar is also the same place. Then thick straw. Then a jar with a narrow opening like this. Then tape, candles, and matchstick. So this is a candle. You require a tape, and you also require a matchstick. What we'll do is, fill half of the jar with vinegar. Okay, you will fill half of the jar with vinegar, then light the candle and place it near the jar. Add a spoonful of baking soda to the jar and insert the straw in it and quickly tape at the opening of jar. Then shake the jar vigorously and point the straw at the candle flame. Repeat the experiment with jars of different volumes. So actually, we will be doing these experiments, but not today. It will require a separate session to explain the things and explain the procedure step by step way. And you will also note your observations. Okay. So what do we understand? So after this experimentation, what will we understand is, vinegar, it's a mild acetic acid that helps to build up the pressure inside the jar and heats up the baking soda to release the carbon dioxide. Okay. And the carbon dioxide then extinguishes the flame of the candle by removing the oxygen around the one. So this is the basic principle how a fire extinguisher works. What happens is, this vinegar, what they do, it helps acetic acid that is inside it to build pressure inside the jar, and it also heats up the baking soda. Okay, so once we are adding baking soda to this vinegar, it uh, helps to heat up the baking soda to release carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide, when passed through the straw, can extinguish the flame that is in front of it by removing the oxygen around it. Okay. These are the STEM cards: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the full form of STEM. Then the think time for all of you guys. What changes did you notice using different volumes of jars? So the activity that we're going to perform, well, what do you think? What will happen? So, what changes did you notice during different volumes of jar? What could you think about it? Hmm? When you use different types of jar, what could be the consequences? Different consequences. Think about it. I'll give you 10 seconds. That you need to answer. See, we will check everything. What is the procedure exactly? Fill half the jar with vinegar. Okay, so you now have a jar, you fill with vinegar, then light the candle and place it near the jar. Okay, and a spoonful of baking soda we have to add in that jar, and quickly we have to tape the opening of the jar. Okay, so if there is a jar, okay, this is a jar which has a lid, then we have to light the candle, place it near the jar. So this is a candle, let's say this is a candle which is having a fume, and this is your jar. So quickly tape the opening of the jar. We have to add a spoonful of baking soda to jar, insert straw, we have to add then it is already half filled with vinegar. We have to add baking soda, then we have to tape it and insert the straw inside it and shake the jar vigorously. We have to shake it vigorously, and what will happen is then the straw, okay, so this is a straw from the jar, I guess. So this straw could extinguish this fire. So my question is here, what will be the effect of size of this jar? Obviously. So what will happen is, there is a pressure and volume relation. Pressure is inversely proportional to volume. That means that if pressure increases, then volume must decrease, or vice versa. That means if pressure decreases, then volume must increase. So what happens here is that if the volume of this jar increases, that is this case, then the pressure with which this gas comes out decreases. Okay, so that is the answer to your question. What is the exactly the depend how it is dependent on volume of jar. Okay, getting this? So this relation you need to keep in mind. Pressure is inversely proportional to volume. That is, if pressure increases, then the volume must decrease. Or if the volume of container is greater, then the pressure exerted by the gases inside it is less. Getting this? If volume is greater, pressure is less. If volume is more, sorry, volume is less, then pressure is definitely the opposite. Okay, so this is all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.